How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I have not seen the movie yet. I will be seeing it tomorrow night.
Excellent.
But I have spoken to people that have seen the movie, and everyone says how great it is, and how
nice.
Jason Statham steals every scene he's in.
Get ready.
So let's talk about that. The buzz being Jason steals everything he's in.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know he was going to be able to do that?
Yes, I 100% knew he was going to be able to do that. I've been a fan of Statham's ever since his career started. I mean, since Lock, Stock. But it was when I saw the first Crank movie that I was like, he's funny, and he knows he's funny, and he knows what's funny about him. And so it just became my life's goal to get him in a comedy. And just kind of couldn't find the right project. And then when I was writing this project, I was like, this is where to put him. Because I had this role I wanted of this sort of, rival spy who's just driven crazy by the fact that this woman who worked out of the basement is actually out as his equal. And I wasn't sure if Jason would do it. I had a meeting with him before I'd even kind of told him about it because I'm just such a fan. And I finally got him. I was terrified to meet him because, you expect it's gonna be like Statham is gonna be, like mean or whatever, tough. And I walk out and he's just like, "Hey, Paul." He's like so friendly. I was like, "Oh my god!" So he's actually like a nice guy on top of it, and we just really hit it off. And then when I wrote the part for him, he jumped on it. I think he might have been a little nervous about it at first, but then he just went for it because we have fun with his persona.
How much were you writing? So you'd met with him before you were writing or after you'd been writing?
I was kind of just in the process of starting to write it when I met with him. So I knew I was going to write it for him, but I was almost like I want to meet him just to see if
Sure.
I should write it for him. If who knows what if he might say he didn't want to do it, or if he just come in and he's so mean, I'm like, oh, I can't work with it. But he was so pleasant that you're like, okay, we're doing this.
I am a big fan of his action movies. I am a fan of his work.
Yeah.
He can do stunts. He can do stuff.
Yeah.
How much did you put that to the test in the film?
Well, we had him doing a lot of stuff. I mean, he had a few fight scenes in this. Kind of Melissa has most of the action, but we had our stunt coordinator JJ Perri has worked with him on like the Expendables movies and stuff. So he had a real comfort zone with these guys that he worked with before, the stunt team. But we had him doing it. For me, I was like, as much as he wanted to do, we were going to do. And he's got a couple of really awesome things he does in the movie.
You obviously screened this for friends and family. You probably did test screenings.
Tons.
What did you learn from the process that impacted the final release?
Well, I mean, the way that I work is I actually don't do friends and family screenings just because they're of no help to me whatsoever because I don't care what my friends think of my movie. I love my friends, but they're not going to be tough on it. We just start the test screening process. I used to start about 3 or 4 weeks into my director's cut, and then every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks we'll put up another one. So we'll end up doing like 9 or 10 over the course of several months. And I just learned, I mean, this was one of these movies that the very first time we screened it, it scored like a 92. It scored really high, and people just completely got it. So it was nice because I mean, honestly, I remember when I was putting together the first cut, sitting with my editor, going like, "Is this going to bomb?" Because I didn't know. It was because it's so specific
Right.
that I thought either people are going to buy into it or they're not. But it was one of these movies like you got to really buy into it, because tonally we tried to make it very real. It's funny, but I wanted to make it a real spy movie with real danger, but also keep it a balance where, because sometimes it's easy to go like, well, then we'll make it all, this action scene will be just a real kick-ass and this and that, but then we'll do a funny scene. And it's like, no, you got to marry the two. So like we got to figure out, like in our action scene, how do we have something funny happen, but that's not so goofy that you go like, well, that's dumb. But go like, oh yeah, that would happen if like she was chasing and she went this way and she accidentally got caught in this thing. I could see that happening and that's funny, but now she's got to get back on the, on track. And so it's just so much tonal juggling that I just didn't know. And so in that first screening, and we have this big gag at the beginning that happens about a couple minutes in, and it just got this enormous laugh. And it was a very controversial joke at the studio because everybody was kind of like, it's going to be like a cartoon if you do that. And I was like, I'm telling you, if we treat this dead serious, it will be a giant laugh. And so it did, and it set the tone, and suddenly we just had this kind of like rock concert screening. There's tons of stuff we wanted to change and fix, but it just went like, okay, good, we got the bases right, and all our test screenings after that were shades of hugely successful response.
You're on a little bit of a winning streak, if you will, with your recent films. How much did that sort of giving you the power when you're talking to executives at Fox and you're like, no, we can do this, or how much does that add to the creative freedom?
It definitely buys you a little bit more. I mean, Fox was very nervous because they'd had 2 other kind of spy comedies that didn't perform the way they wanted to. I mean, between Night and Day and This Means War. And so there was a feeling of like, the spy comedy is a limited thing. But it's like, and I like those movies, but I was like, I can see what we need to fix. I can see how tonally we got to stay on target, how character-wise we got to stay on target. And so it allowed me, I think it was a movie, had somebody kind of with a track record that hadn't kind of done as well as my last 2 movies, it probably wouldn't have gotten made, I think. And so it allowed me to push things through that they were nervous about. But, the minute we started shooting, they started to see, even the very first day, because the very first scene we shot was the controversial opening scene, and I just remember like everybody like, oh, we get it, because it's very hard to say like, no, you don't understand. I'm going to play this in tonally. You can't describe tone to people, no matter how hard you try. But it's the way we shot it, the way production designed it. We treated it dead serious, and then just the way that the people, the actors would carry out this joke. They played it dead serious, and then you go like, okay, I get it, and then we were kind of. Okay. You're
basically premiering your movie at South by Southwest, which is where we are. When they said to you, we want to premiere at South by, were you like, absolutely? Or were you a little bit nervous because it is a few months before opening? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, we did a work in progress screening of Bridesmaids back in 2011 that went through the roof. It was really great. And I mean, honestly, it was called a work in progress, but I got up on stage and said, look, we're still sound mixing, but it's basically locked. Which then we got this horrible review from the guy at Variety who was in the crowd, like, well, now I can review it, who sat in the middle of a crowd of like 1,100 people, like, giant response, and his review was, there's not one laugh in this movie. It was like, what? And I was kind of like, wait, you can say you hate the movie, I get that, but like, don't make that up.
That I find that one hard to believe.
Yeah, you could go back into the archives and read the Variety review of Bridesmaids from South by Southwest. It's hilarious.
I got to tell you something. I can never. That's fucked up. Yeah, I'll just say it like that.
Well, Judd actually called the guy and actually like confronted him on it, and I think the guy actually backed down.
But I mean, that's very that's unusual. I mean, anyway, we're off on a tangent.
Yeah, exactly. No, well, yeah, but so I had that very positive experience here, despite the review, and so and I've been to the Austin Film Festival a ton. What I love about any of the festivals here is that it just brings out people who really love movies and don't come into it like, I'm gonna shit all over this thing. It's nice. You feel like there's just a love of the art form, and so that's really fun. And also, this is a very good town for comedy. People really like comedy, and they respond to it. It's not one of these, especially South by isn't one of these festivals. It's just heavy all the time. Like, they really support comedy, and it's great. And it just just the crowds you can get, and then the being at the Paramount, that size of an audience, it's fun, because I know the movie from all of our test screenings, it works. Whether it works with certain audiences, who knows? Whether people will show up when it comes out in the theaters, it will be motivated enough to go see it, who knows? That's the danger of movies. But I do know that, like, we, on a base level, we work, just because I've screened it, 9 or 10 times in front of crowds of 300 or 400 people who are off the street, who don't have any stakes in my feelings whatsoever. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Who knows? Sometimes you get a crowd that just doesn't buy into it. Who knows? But I'm excited just because I love showing a movie. I'm
sure it's going to play well because, as I said, everyone I've spoken to that has seen it, I haven't heard a bad word.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's